Welcome to the Money Making Money podcast with your hosts, Mark Anderson, myself, George Applicano, and then our special guest, Max Jimenez from Real Estate Disruptors.
What's going on, fellas? I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Max Cash Offers, right?
Yes, sir.
Right
yes,
on,
sir.
right on. How you been?
I've been good. How you guys doing, man?
Good.
Yeah.
Can't complain.
This is awesome. I love this. So hoping I can provide value for you guys. Obviously, I appreciate you guys inviting me, and we'll see what we can do.
Right, exactly. So, when we start off the podcast, we always start off like, how did you get into real estate? How did you get into this business? What got you? What was the thing that clicked?
Well, I'll try to make this short. Obviously, I don't know how much time we have here. Are we good on?
We're good.
Okay,
as long as you want.
Yeah. So, for me, I found about real estate. I want to say way back in, or I learned about real estate back in, I want to say in '05, right? Because that's when the market was exploding.
Okay.
I wasn't really involved in real estate at that point, but I always loved sales. That's been like my thing, right? I've always loved sales. Always loved. Going out, talking to people, right? And so I was working at a credit card bank, and my sister-in-law was buying a property at that time, and she went and met a gentleman that was doing not real estate, but they helped you credit repair. That's what it's called. Yeah, so he was doing credit repair, and the guy was by himself, and asked her, hey, do you know anybody that would like to work here? And the whole story. So she ended up reaching out to me, and she's like, hey, they got a great opportunity. It seems like you would do great there. So I reached out to him, went over there, talked to him, and I accepted the position. So I got there, and then so in that office, it's like what you guys have here.
A position for like wholesaling?
No, for credit repair.
For credit repair, okay.
So then in that same office, it was the credit repair, and then there was a couple of investors in there.
Okay.
So that's how I got introduced to the investing world.
Okay.
Yeah, so I wasn't really involved at that time, but it was very intriguing. I hear them talk, and I got to communicate with them and made them friends. I befriended one gentleman. His name was Randy, and he was very involved. These guys were doing like high-end flips over in Paradise Valley and like Scottsdale and stuff.
Okay.
So it was pretty amazing to me, and it was something I wanted to strive for. But obviously, you know what happened the next couple of years, right? That was '05, and then '06, and then obviously that went sideways.
The turn of the market.
Yeah, the turn of the market.
It seems like it's coming again.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be a dip. Obviously, I'm not expecting something as what happened before.
Right?
Yeah, just because the loans and the way that people are being qualified are not the same as what happened, right? I think the prices are going to dip a little bit because they went up really quick. But long story short, I befriended the gentleman named Randy. Obviously, the market crashed. Me and him became really good friends. Didn't work there, but I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, right? I always wanted to work for myself. And honestly, I worked so many jobs. We'll be here all day listing the different jobs because I was never a good employee, Like, I was really good at my work, and I was really dedicated at the things that I did. But when it came for them to tell me, like, hey, you can't do this, you can't do that, I was very bad at that stuff.
I'm in the same boat.
So I don't know. You guys can relate this, right? Being entrepreneurs, and that's why we are entrepreneurs, right? For the most part. So I wasn't a very good employee. So throughout, we kept in touch with that gentleman, with my friend Randy. Obviously, he's already passed away, But and then in 2000, I want to say like around 2010, I started to get that entrepreneur bug again, right? Like, hey, this employee stuff's not for me. So I didn't know what to do, like, because I had no direction, right? I didn't know anything about real estate. All I knew is that I knew from what I learned there, and you buy a property, you fix it up, and then, obviously you put it back out on the market. You needed money. That's what I thought for the most part, which I think most people do, right, when they're trying to get into real estate. And sometimes people get into real estate thinking they need a license as well. I'm not opposed to having a license, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a benefit. But most people think that to become an investor, you need money, you need to be licensed. And I think that's just from other people telling them things. They're telling them that they need those things. So long story short, I didn't know what to do. I'm like, I can't do this employee thing. So I did all kinds of stuff. I would do yard sales. I was buying pallets from a guy downtown for $320. And then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I would do the yard sales. And then I would make about $600 to $650 a day just selling individual items.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, on the yard sale. So, and during the week, though, I treated it like a business. So I would buy the pellets Monday and Tuesday, break them down at my house. It would be all scared, and my wife like, "What are you doing?" So and then I would have tables because people are lazy, so they wouldn't bend down to grab the stuff. So I bought tables. Everything was high, like everything. I would put down to science, but obviously that only has a time frame because we live in Arizona, and what happens in Arizona?
Yeah,
it gets hot.
It gets hot.
Burning hot. It's not hot. It's burning hot.
Yeah. And and I have a little bit of a construction background, and I'll get to that a little bit how I ended up with that. My stepdad's always been in plumbing. He does commercial plumbing to this day. So they build big structures like hospitals, stadiums, and stuff like that. So I thought I own a handyman business, right? Like we wanted to work our own. I got him involved, but he was like, yeah, I don't think this is for me because you can have a skill, but if you want to own your own business and be an entrepreneur, that's another whole level, right?
Yeah.
Different skill, different mindset. I think that's what it is. And then around 2011, I'm like, man, I don't know what to do. Like, I just this ain't working out. The yard sale thing's only during the cooler months. This handyman stuff, I can't do it myself. Like, so what I did in towards 2011, I ended up working for a company doing plumbing because my stepdad obviously did that. So we did some really big projects. We built the what is it called? It's off of 91st. They have one here in Tempe too. It's Game Time or no, not Game Time.
GameWorks.
No, not GameWorks. It's the other one. It's right there next to IKEA. I think it's
Main Event.
Main Event, yes. Okay. So we didn't build the one in Tempe. We built the one out on the west side.
Okay.
So we built Main Event. We built fry stores, a lot of schools. And so I was there from 2011, obviously when I quit my job in 2016. So I was there about 5 years.
Okay.
And so one of the things that when the market started to go back, I'm going to bring this back to real estate now. In 2014, the market started to spike up, right? Like we started seeing the prices go up, and I reached out to my friend again, Randy, right? I was like, hey, Randy, have you seen the market? It's going up. What do you think about us going out and maybe looking for properties? Like, and he was a lot older than me, so he's like, yeah. He goes, go ahead and start doing research. I'm like, okay. So I started doing research, started getting on Craigslist, and I would see all these properties that were being listed. At that time, I did not know there were wholesalers. Right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, at that time, I would call and they're like, yeah, if you want that property, you got to have the money in 7 days, you got to pay cash. And I'm like, how the hell am I supposed to do that? I'm like, I don't even have, this is step one. Like, I don't know how I'm going to get there, like, I don't know how now looking back, I laugh, right? Because I knew what they were doing, because we're in that business now. So I'm like getting frustrated. And I would go back to Randy. I'm like, man, this thing, I don't know if it's going to work. And so, out of all things, my mother-in-law, she's like, hey, why don't you talk to Karen? This was a realtor that helped her sell. She's only bought one house in her life, but she's like, call Karen. She's a real estate agent. Her daughter's a real estate agent. Call her and see what's going on with that. And this was like, I want to say at the end of 2014 going into 2015.
Okay.
And I call her. I'm like, hey, Karen, this is Max. My mother-in-law said that you helped her, buy her property. She also said that you work with investors. And so she's like, you know what? I'm out of the game. I'm no longer doing this. I'm like, oh, man. You can see my frustration, right? Here we go. So, but the thing that drove me is like the desire. That's what I wanted to do. I just didn't know how to go about it, right? I'm like, and I think that's what happens to a lot of us, right? Like we know we want to do something, and sometimes you find that vehicle, but you don't know which direction to take that vehicle with, And real estate's a big vehicle that you can go you can take that vehicle in pretty much everywhere. So then I call her. She's like, this is the one thing that that way you have to be persistent, not give up, no matter what's happening, right? And I think in that call, at the end of the call, she tells me obviously she's not active. She's no longer doing anything. She lives in Florida. Her daughters don't get involved with investors, and I'm like, why did I call her? And so at the end of the call, she goes, you know what? Before we hang up, I do remember though. Why don't you look up a guy named Sean Terry?
Oh,
yeah. So it was crazy, man. Like, I could have hung up, right? I could have said thank you. I was just listening to her. I didn't show my frustration. I wasn't telling her like, oh, great, why did I call or whatever. But she's like, why don't you look up a guy named Sean Terry? And in my mind, I'm thinking like, oh, great, now I gotta go look up another guy, right? I'm thinking to myself. I didn't do it that night. So the next day, I Googled him. And, this is when Sean Terry was, he's still big, obviously, right? He's big in our industry, what he does and stuff. So I looked him up, and then I went on his website and I'm like, man, what the heck is this guy about? It's like flip to freedom, boom, 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 and he's
super intense.
Yeah, super intense, boom, baby. So then I skimmed through his website. I'm looking. I still don't know like what the heck he was doing, right? And I'm like, I don't know what the heck's going on here. Buy real estate, zero down, no money, real estate. I'm like, this is crazy. But then he had an ebook that you can download. So you can download a free ebook. And so I downloaded the ebook, and I think that night, or I remember a couple of days later, I ended up pulling the ebook back up, and I read the whole thing. I read it twice to make sure that what I was reading was correctly. So correct. Sorry. So in that ebook, it's pretty much broke down what wholesaling was.
Yeah.
How you go out, find these people who are in a certain situation, and then how you obviously get under contract, and then you go and sell that contract to a buyer. And I was blown away. I was like, what the heck? I told my wife, I just read this ebook. She's like, yeah.
Sure. Go do it, right?
So that's how I found out about wholesaling, was through that matter, going through all those things. But I reached out to my friend, and was like, hey, I found out about this guy. He's like, he says you could do this, you could do that. We need to figure out how to do this, how to, send the letters and all this stuff. And he's like, wait. He goes, are you sure this guy's legit? So long story short, that's kind of my road into how I got to find out about real estate, specifically wholesaling, and from there it's just been a process. I mean, just you obviously know that.
Right.
And then as I went, I mean, it took me about 11 months to get my first deal. So that was, I started. The good thing about that, when I found out about Sean Terry, he's here local, so I used to go to his meetups at his office.
Yeah.
So it was really good. Access was like direct, right? So we were able to just
awesome.
Yeah. So he was a real genuine nice guy overall. Just giving me access to like his academy and stuff. This was back 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago. So. And then in October 2015, I went to Flip to Freedom, which is an event that he holds, and that was my first event ever I went to. I was blown away by it. Took a massive action. That was October 2015. The next 6 months, I completely blacked out my music. I completely blacked out my watching TV. My wife was like, "Oh, are we gonna listen? We're gonna watch TV?" And so I'm like, "No, right now I'm learning, and taking action, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't get my first deal till 11 months after that, and it was for 11,500, and it came from a referral of a lady that was working with my wife. So
okay. And you got this deal while you were working a full-time job, right?
So what's funny? No, I didn't. So I didn't get the deal when I was working my full-time job, but I was actually doing that. I was doing the taking action, the marketing, all that while I was working.
Okay.
So I was still working my construction job, right? I would go in the summertime. I was going in at 5 o'clock in the morning, but I would get out real early. I would get out about 1:30, and what I would do is from that time 1:30 to whenever I was either doing the bandit signs, doing the letters. And I have a lot of, you can look up on my Instagram, but I have pictures from memories when I was in my kitchen table. My kids would be putting on the stamps on the envelopes. So, and my son would help me, would go with me to put out the bandit signs. That was before cold calling and texting and stuff.
Right,
was still available. So, so long story short, going back to what I had said about me, taking pride in my work and, everything that I did, I would say like 8 months into this, because my mentality was shifting. I found that vehicle. My mentality, my mindset was shifting to be more in the entrepreneur space. I started getting a little frustrated. I started hating my job, and that wasn't normal for me. Like that was not normal for me to feel like that.
I know that feeling so well.
Same here. Same here.
Yeah, so I started hating and it wasn't that. I don't know if I would say I started hating it, but I didn't look at my job the same way.
Exactly.
Right. Certain frustrations, right? Somebody kind of telling you, well, no, you need to do this, and right.
Correct. Yeah. Like I'll give you an example. Our superintendent, right? That's what we call him, superintendent. He's the guy that runs all the crews and stuff. But yeah, he'll be like, hey, Dave, I'm not coming in on Friday. I'm letting you know right now, I'm not gonna come in on Friday. And he's like, oh no, you can't. We need you. Like, look, I'm not asking you. I'm telling you. So even if you don't put it on the calendar, I'm calling you. I'm texting you Friday morning that I need that day off.
That's fine.
So, but anyways, I started to get frustrated at my job because I'm like, this is not what I want to do. I was making really good money for somebody that works as an hourly job. I was making like $23 an hour in 2015. And so what's crazy is me and the foreman, because I wasn't the foreman, I was more the lead man. Me and the foreman that were working together, he was making like about $30 an hour, I want to say, but he had been doing it for like 25 years. And I've only been doing it for 4.5 years, you know, and I'm looking at him and after I'm doing all this.
You're doing the math.
Yeah, I'm doing the math. I think it was a little bit more of his fault, his own fault, not wanting to move up and be like a project manager or superintendent, right? Than not him having an opportunity to grow. But still, you look at that and you're like, okay,
I don't want to be that guy.
Exactly.
The
I don't
future.
want to be that guy. So in my frustration, I thought I would be smart, and I went to my wife like, you know what, I need to get out of this job. Like, I need to be around real estate. So I ended up, telling my wife, what if I find somewhere where I can work, get paid, and then work, be around real estate? Why still do this? So I want to say around July or August of 2016, I answered an ad on Craigslist. There was for an inside sales rep. And guess who that person that did the ad? Guess who it was?
Was it Steve Train?
It was Steve Train. Yep. It was Steve Train. So what I did is I called the ad and I said, hey, listen.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What did the ad say? Do you remember?
It said need rockstar inside sales rep. He wasn't very specific on the ad what it was. It just said inside sales rep, work with real estate professionals, and things like that. So I was like, bingo, that's what I want to do. That's the job that's gonna get me to be around the industry, right? Be around real estate. And so I called the number. So he makes you go through like these big loops. You gotta do a survey, then you gotta drop your profiles, like your social media profiles, so you can go and look at them, and then you gotta give a call. So then when it came time to the call, I ended up calling. I'm like, hey, I just filled out all the paperwork on your ad. You know what? I'm not looking for a handout. Honestly, just give me a shot. If you don't like the way I work, you can fire me in 30 days. That's what I told. That's the recording that I left on there. Awesome. Yeah, I know. And so I kid you not, I got a phone call in about the next 4 minutes, 3 minutes.
Awesome.
So anyways, he ended up hiring me. I took a huge pay cut, you know what I mean? And the transition from this was really crazy. So I ended up accepting the job. I think it was paid like $16 an hour or something. I don't remember.
Well, was it acquisitions or?
No. So at that time, he wasn't heavy on wholesaling. Okay. So it was more of inside sales. So I was booking all the appointments for the retail side.
Okay, for retail.
Yeah, for retail. So for all his agents.
Wow.
So, yeah, crazy. And so, and here's the thing, I didn't even know he wholesale. He was wholesaling, but very, very, very small amount, right? Like a deal here he would do with Jamil. Okay. And so, but the volume of what I did was for booking appointments for retail agents, you know. And so I accepted the position, went back to my job, and we knew the owner of the company. I was really good with the owner of the company, the plumbing company that I was working with. So we called him, his name is Jason Nash, but we all called him Nash. Like, hey Nash, I got to talk to you. And this is the point where we're starting. If you ever go up north and then you pass Dove Valley, the exit, there's a Fry's. It's like this big, huge super Fry's. I mean, they got a wine testing. They sell clothes and everything there. Yeah, like they have a bar inside Fry's. Wow. Yeah. So we actually, the company built that one. We started that one from the ground up. That was the last job I was on. And I told him, like, hey, Nash, I need to talk to you. You know what, I've been, I told him I got presented a great opportunity, and I think it's time for me to take that opportunity. And so he took back. He's like, "What's going on? What did we do? Did we upset you?" I'm like, no, like no, nothing of that happened.
You had to give him the "It's not you, it's me" speech.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I had to give him the "It's not you, it's me" speech. And so he hit me pretty hard. It's like, what do we got to do to keep him? Honestly, man, I just don't think there's anything you can do. And he's like, well, what if I give you $5 more an hour? And I'm like,
whoa, okay.
Yeah, wait.
Yeah, I said, holy smokes, it hit me, right, like a punch in the gut. And I'm thinking, like, man, like $5 an hour, and I didn't want to be disrespectful, so I told the guy, I'm like, look, Nash, I don't want to answer you right now. Let me think about it, and I'll have an answer for you tomorrow. He's like, okay, no, that's fine, but let me know, please, because I need to know, because I don't want you to leave. And I said, it's all good. And so now I'm like, man, this guy's offering me $5 more an hour. And, my wife and I have a really good relationship. So we talk about, a lot of stuff. We communicate very well. Now I'm thinking, like, how do I sell this to my wife? I'm making like $23 an hour. The guy's offering me another $5 an hour. It puts me closer to 28. What helped me honestly was the drive from up because I live on 44. I lived on 40th Street in Thomas, so I live East Valley.
Yeah.
So you can know it. So you know how far it is, right? Dove Valley is like yeah. So probably 45 minutes,
45
maybe.
minutes.
Yeah,
Yep.
45 minutes. So that's what helped me, right? Like, cause I'm thinking like, how the heck am I gonna talk about? How the heck am I gonna sell this, or not even sell, but just how am I gonna tell my wife like, I'm about to get a job that pays me 16, and I'm at 28 over here. Like, how does that work, right?
Right.
But what helped me was it was a long drive. It was a long drive home. So halfway home, I'm thinking like I was stressing, and halfway home, I'm like, well, wait a minute, like if I was that good, like why am I not getting paid that now? Like why did I just get offered, that money? Again, this is my mindset already shifted because all the books I was reading, everything that I was learning, podcasts, webinars.
Right.
So
Did you read Rich Dad Poor Dad? I'm pretty sure you have.
I've read it. Yeah.
Okay.
I that wasn't the first book I read though. It wasn't Rich Dad Poor Dad.
What was the first one? Just
shoot, man, I can't even remember honestly. But it wasn't Rich Dad Poor Dad.
okay.
I mean, it was the ebook.
The ebook, the Sean Terry ebook.
The Sean Terry ebook. But that was the first one, which was a good one.
Right. No worries. So continue.
Yeah. So I'm driving home. I got, and obviously that came up. I'm like, give me some time to think about it, the drive and stuff. So, and when I got home, I told my wife like, hey, I need to talk to you. I ended up telling Nash, that, I'm gonna be taking this new opportunity. And he's like, well, what'd he say? And I'm like, well, he wasn't too happy, obviously, right? Or not too excited for it. Okay, and what else did he say? Like, well, he offered me more money. And
that's
she's
what
like,
she was trying to get at.
Yeah, exactly. And then she's like, well, how much more? And I'm like, I looked down, right, like $5 more. And then she looked at me, and then she looked down, and she's like, what are you gonna do? Because that's a lot of money. But here's the thing though with her is that was probably I want to say from October to July, right? We're talking 9 months, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something like that, 9 months. So that was 9 months of time that she was with me as well, working. Like she would help me with the letters. So she had to believe, she bought into this as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Like she was supportive, as far as like she understood what I was trying to do. And so it wasn't something that like I found out about and then 3 months later I was doing this. Like I worked at my day job and then I also was doing the industry, right? At night. And she was there side by side, right? Working there with me. She would go out sometimes with me as well to hang up the bandit signs. Like she would wait in the car and I get off and zip tie the bandit signs because man, the dirt. I don't know if you guys ever put out bandit signs. The dirt out here is freaking hard.
Right. It is hard. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then the little piquito, the little metal pole just does not go in.
It does not go in.
You gotta take a screwdriver, hammer it.
And being in construction, I'm like, what if I tape the top of the sticks? Tape them so it doesn't crack, and then the bottom would just go.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it would just pop. But she understood and she saw the time and effort that I was putting into it. So she must have seen something where like, okay, this is what he really wants to do, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, went back and told him no, obviously. So told him no, I'm gonna take this opportunity. Long story short, started working with Steve, and then in October of 2016, that's when I got my first deal when I was working with him. And then pretty much it was
so almost a year. Right?
Yeah, close to a year,
Close to a year.
I didn't start my marketing though till like January or February.
Okay.
So I went to the event, but I didn't take action till after like the holidays or something it was. So
you were kind of testing stuff out.
Yeah,
for the first
testing
3
stuff
months,
out.
and then solid action in January.
Correct. Yeah. So because I wasn't too sure like how do I go about this. I was still in analysis paralysis, if you want to call that, right? Because that happens to a lot of people. And I wasn't really taking action. I'm like, you know what? Screw this. I'm just gonna go out there, do the letters, do the bandit signs or whatever it needs to be done. And so I think it was somewhere like January, end of January, early February. So that's why I say like 11 months. And actually, the deal didn't even come from a bandit sign or a letter. Like, I actually got 2 contracts though in between that, but they were canceled. They were canceled.
Okay.
So, and after the second one, I'm like, man, I don't even know this is for me. Like, I don't know, like, because I didn't know how to do comps. I didn't know the valuation. I'm like, and one of the mistakes that I made, and I could tell your listeners, is that I didn't reach out to enough people. One of the things, and I think it comes more because I felt like I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
But being in this industry for the length of time that I'm in now is there's actually people that are willing to help you more than they're not. You just have to find the right people. And I think that's what happened to me, right? Like, hey, I'm new to this. I have no idea what I'm doing. How do I provide value? But there is ways that you could provide value, and like I said, I think there's a lot of more people that want to help you than they're not, you know.
Right.
And so that was my fault. Like I stayed to myself, and everything I learned.
Sorry, in this market, it seems that way, right?
Correct.
Now there are other markets. You've obviously gone and spoken in like in different states, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel that that's the same thing? Like some people are hesitant about giving the in collaborating with other wholesalers, or
there is there's two sides to that, right? There's obviously what your point is true. Like there's markets where people like they're secluded,
right.
and they want to keep all the information to themselves.
Yeah.
And I've seen that, you know, there's the markets that we went to, you know, like you're saying, you know, we've been to Houston. That's kind of they're starting to build that up, you know, the collaboration. And so. And the other side of that though is who you are as well too, like who you are attracting, right? As a person, like are you attracting the individuals that you want to, you know, have around you? That's the other thing too, is that you have to see who you're attracting to be part of your circle, or be you know do collaboration with them. But some markets are not. I mean, I know a guy in Nashville that, you know, he can't even get people to come have coffee with them, you know, because they're so a scarcity mentality that they don't even want to collaborate on anything, you know. And we found out that I think collaborating is great. You make more money. You obviously experience that here in this market. This market is, I think, it's like no other market as far as collaboration.
Right.
For the most part.
Very unique. Yeah, absolutely.
Very unique, and we get that a lot. Like we'll get people that come on the podcast, you know, and that's the number one thing. Like we even had I think in our last workshop, Matt Larson came out of Iowa. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty big deal. He lived out here in Phoenix, and one of the things that blew me away when he said, if what's happening right now in Phoenix was happening back when I lived here, he goes, I would have never moved out. He goes, it's so amazing what you guys have going on here in Phoenix. And we hear it nonstop, always. It's the same thing over and over, your collaboration, the way you guys, you know, work together or to get deals instead of working against each other, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a good point, you know, to take from this, is that reach out to people, but provide value, right? Like I get hundreds of messages just like, hey, can I pick your brain for a little bit? I'm like, no, I don't have time, you know, for that. I help as much people as I can because I love giving back. But a lot of times you're just too busy for the most part, you know, to do things. And that's why these podcasts are here, right? Podcasts are here to help people. So, but anyways, we get back on the story?
Yeah.
Keep going?
No, get back on the story. Yeah,
So I'm working with Steve. Obviously, I'm still doing my marketing, and then I started with him in August, and then in October I got my deal, and then I ended up closing on it. I came back.
Steve knew that you were working on wholesale stuff.
Yeah, he knew.
Right, of course.
Yeah. Steve's always had. That's one of the things with Steve. I mean, I've known him now for 4 years, a little close to 4 years, and you know, he's always had an abundant mentality, like. So he knew what I was doing, right? I mean, me and him went to the Flip to Freedom event in 2016. So he bought the tickets and stuff.
Yeah.
So in October, I told him, hey, Steve, you know what? I got my first deal. I wanted to talk to you. And he's like, yeah, what's going on? I'm letting you know that I'm going out on my own. So he's like, he's like, what? He goes, man, okay, well, he goes, if that's what you want to do. But you could tell, you know, he's looking down and stuff. And so, yeah, I went on my own. I didn't go on my own. So my real estate career took a little bit of a turn because when I went to that event at Flip to Freedom, that Sean Terry event, I met a guy in that event who was a buy and hold guy. So he had like close to about 35 rentals here in Phoenix. So we built a really good relationship. And so when I got my deal, I reached out to him. I said, hey man, what are you up to? You know, you want to have lunch? So me and him partnered up, not officially. We didn't create an LLC. We didn't create a company. It was more of a handshake kind of partner up there.
JV handshake.
Yeah, JV handshake. So he had the lenders. He had, you know, the money and the experience and stuff. So basically, me and him, you know, we partnered up. So starting all of 2017, I didn't wholesale as much as I wanted to. So I got more into the fix and flip game. That's what happened in 2017 is that I think we did close to 16 flips that year. I want to say 15 to 16 flips that year between both of us together. Because we had a really good lender that was 100% finance, 14% interest, and no payments or anything. So we were buying properties. We were taking everything down. Yeah. And being a buy and hold guy, like he didn't want to wholesale anything. Like let's squeeze every puppy for whatever we can, right? But you know, and it was great. Like you know, that year was awesome. I learned a lot, and you know, the thing was that towards the end of the year, I got really tired because I was back in a position that I didn't want to be. I kind of had a job again, right? I was balancing all the subs. I was locking up the deals. I was balancing the subs. Making sure the projects were all going right and stuff. And the partnership was really unbalanced for the most part.
Yeah.
And we kind of started shifting towards the end of 2017, where we realized that we needed to wholesale a little bit more because a lot of the capital wasn't unlimited at that point. I mean, right now you can find money everywhere right now. So if you wanted to, but at that time we had two private lenders, and obviously they weren't unlimited, so we were missing out on a lot of opportunities because the mindset was like, let's squeeze every deal for what we can. And then so towards the end of 2017, we were kind of going a separate way. Like, we need to wholesale more, so we need to start bringing people in. And my cut wanted to my percentage was gonna be less at that point. I'm like, and I was thinking like, yeah, this ain't going the right way. This is not going the right way that it should be. And so we built a really good relationship. His family met my family and stuff. So we sat down. I talked to him. And I told him, like, hey, man, listen, we're very good friends, and I don't want a business to be a problem and come and divide us in between us. So, I feel like the way we're headed is not really a direction where I want to go. I said, given everything, I respect everything you've done for me. You've trained me. The experience that I have is, it's a lot because you showed me how to, you showed me about it, how to deal with lenders, how to talk to, sellers, how to negotiate, how to comp properties as well too. So I learned a lot in that year. Really, I was really appreciative of that, And so, but the direction we're going is not the direction that I want to go, and so we shook hands. To this day, we're still friends. We've done many deals together. We've wholesaled him, apartment complexes. So,
okay, awesome.
I can pick up the phone and still call him right now,
That's cool.
if I have a deal that he wants to look at. So, he was a very passive investor, you could say. So that's kind of what happened. So
yeah, exactly.
And
you grow to a certain level, and you're like,
yeah, exactly. I'm like, I'm not there yet. Like, where I have to be relaxed and collect rents. Dude, you got like 35 rentals. Like, like I have to be transactional, and obviously, bringing in people. I get it. As you grow, you got to reduce things and stuff. But it was only my side that was being reduced.
Right on, right on.
Yeah.
And so then after that, okay, so then your relationship ended with there, and what happened? What happened next?
Yeah, so it's a crazy story. So I think this was January when that happened of 2018, I want to say. And then for a little bit, I didn't know what to do yet. I was kind of, it was still the new year, and I'm trying to figure out, like, I knew I was going to be on my own at some point. So I want to say somewhere in February or March of 2018, I was getting ready to go on my own pretty much. I was actually at Starbucks just thinking, like, game planning pretty much to see what the next step was. And are we good on time? Or?
Yeah,
keep going.
Awesome. And so I started game planning. I'm at Starbucks, and then my phone rings, and of all people, it's Steve. He calls me, and so it wasn't just a coincidence. Me and Steve kept in contact for a long time. And if you look, like, all through 2017, I posted everything I was doing. Like, hey, I'm at this flip. I'm at this flip. So there's documents of all this. Hey, I'm buying this. Even Jesse Burrell is like, who the hell is this guy? Is he a wannabe wholesaler or what? He didn't know who I was, right? Jesse Burrell. They own Batch.
Okay.
So we're real good friends now. But at that time, he shared with me one day, like, dude, I was always seeing you post that you're at property, and like, who is this guy? Is he for real or what? Or is he a fake, like a wannabe wholesaler or something? Yeah. So Steve and I, through that, he saw that I hustled. He saw that I was grinding all the time and stuff. And then, and he called me, and I don't know, it was weird. It was fate, whatever you want to call it. He called me, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, honestly, man, I said, I'm here right now, deciding on what to do. He's like, "What do you mean?" I'm building out a plan. I'm not sure yet what direction to take it. He's like, "Well, do you want to have lunch?" So I said, "Do you want to have lunch next week?" And so we did. We booked an appointment to have lunch. We booked the lunch. And we met at Oregano's, and we had like an hour and a half lunch, just going back and forth, talking and stuff, and sharing what he wanted to do. And so I told him, like, look, this is what's happening. I don't want to go through that. This is what I don't want to do. He goes, bet, let's build a company. Let's do it right. Let's do everything the correct way.
Yeah.
We'll get people. And that's it, man. So that this thing's exploded. I mean, we started April, I want to say officially April 2018, and it's just been crazy, amazing ride, man.
Yeah, amazing things that you guys have been doing. So.
Yeah, and again, it's our part. A lot of even Steve will tell you, like, he doesn't like partnerships, but Our partnership is pretty interesting because we're like totally opposites, and we work very well together.
So true.
Yeah, so we work very well together, and obviously it's been I've learned a lot about business from him. He's been in the industry for a long time. It's just and it's just been an incredible ride with the podcast, with
the weekly meetups.
The weekly meetups,
I mean,
the monthly meetups. Our coaching program, our sales coaching program,
Yep.
training program. I mean, it's just been amazing as far as, and that goes back to, being persistent, right? Because I could have gave up a lot of times down that path.
Yeah.
I could have gave up a lot of times down that path, and I didn't, because it's just when you set your mind on what you want to do, you don't let anything stop you, right? You're gonna fail. You're gonna have things going your way. Obviously, you've been through that, right? You started,
exactly.
I'm very proud of where you're at. It's freaking awesome, man.
We'll get back to that in just a second.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, but I think just staying persistent and not giving up and knowing that failure is going to be part of your journey, that's you're good to go, And I see a lot of people nowadays, because of Instagram, because of social media, is that, this is crazy because we'll have people reach out to us and they're like, hey, I want to work with you. I want to be part of your team. And they're like, yeah, awesome, man. Give me a call. So before they come to the office now, I have a questionnaire that I have like 4 or 5 questions that are tailored to mindset stuff.
Okay.
To see where they're at and stuff. And a lot of people don't even make it through that just because the way they answer the questions.
That's same thing. We've been trying to hire acquisitions people, and same thing. We give them the keys to the kingdom, and they don't even want to open the door.
Yeah. So a funny story about that is that it's like they see the pictures of the house, they see the people taking pictures in front of cars,
pictures of the checks too.
Picture of the checks,
right.
and then you bring them in, and then they're like, oh, there's structure. You mean I have to do this?
I have to actually work.
Yeah, you actually have to work for it, and I think for me that's my superpower is my work ethic, honestly, just because of my background and stuff. And so I think that's why Steve and I work very well, obviously, right? So like on our traction, he's the visionary, I'm an integrator. So right. I'm half visionary. I have some visionary, so I'll do some things that I don't have to consult with him, knowing that it's going to take the company to a certain direction, right, in a positive direction. But for the most part, I play the integrator role.
Right.
In that, yeah.
And that's essential, right? Because at least from his point of view, from being the visionary, he can at least basically present that idea and you can run with it.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. You'll be able to interpret it and say, okay, well, this is the best way for the company, and boom, integrate it, and there it goes.
Correct. Yeah. But yeah, man, it's always it's hard to find people who want to work and work hard, And you're right. You give them a business in a box, like sometimes I think to myself, like, man, if I had this when I started with my work ethic, like,
right,
I would not, I would probably, who knows, right? We don't know. We don't know where we'd be at, but for sure, I would be way ahead, right. Than when I first started. Because before it was just doing the letters. If you don't want to work hard, just picking up the phone right now, you definitely weren't going to work hard and sit in your kitchen table and write the letters out and go out and put bandit signs.
Yeah.
That's definitely not going to happen.
So yeah, that brings me back to when I actually worked with you.
Yeah.
Right. So in that space and that time, so in case you didn't know, I worked for Max. So in that space and in that time, I had already worked with 3 different investors prior to you, and I was still trying to do my bandit signs and all that stuff and all that.
Yeah.
And so
there's a hustler, bro.
Right. and it reminded me so much when when you said that Steve looked down and stuff like that when I told you I got to go on my own.
I know.
Like, oh, but you don't understand. I'm like, sorry, I gotta go.
Yeah, no, because we loved you, man. Like, you were a hustler. You were always on the phone and stuff. I mean, this guy wasn't afraid to work. So, he's definitely not. He's one of the few that weren't afraid to work, put a head down, and he, obviously, it makes sense, and this is what we tell our, like, everybody who comes to work for us, like, we know where we stand, and we know we're always going to be here. And we make it very clear, like, look, if you're going to come on our team and you're going to work with us, learn as much as possible. Like, learn, what is that called?
Rinse
the towel as much as possible before you leave. That way, when you leave, like, we don't have no problem if you come to me, and you're like, hey, I think I'm going to start on my own. Like, we tell them this when we hire them, like, when they come and be on our team.
Yeah.
The only thing that we tell is, like, work hard so you can learn, and learn the business correctly. So that way when you're ready to go on your own, you know what you're doing, that, because there's one thing to being, this is the way I look at it. So there's one thing just hustling and getting deals. And then there's a whole another, like the iceberg, right? You have the iceberg, and then the tip is just people getting the deals, your cold callers and your acquisition guys. But below that is the business side, which most don't understand.
Right, exactly, right, exactly.
Yeah, so we tell them, like, learn that side if you really want to be in business. And a lot of times they come in and they don't ever, like, Ruben's been with us now forever. Like, he hasn't left. Like, that guy's a hustler. He works his butt off. He does whatever it takes, but he doesn't have no interest in doing the business side, you know, because it's a lot of work, you know, and that's okay.
Work, right?
And
that's okay. All that. Yeah. Exactly, and especially with you guys. I mean, you guys run lean, right? So four employees or five?
Right now,
that was the last time I checked.
Yeah, so right now we're a little bit more than that. So I don't know if you want to get into that now or.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So right now it consists of so it's Steve and I, right? And then so because we're so busy, because even though I'm still considered the integrator in Traction, so we hired Kristen. She's somewhat took in the role a little bit, some of my workload to be an integrator. Okay. She's like a pure integrator. Okay. Yeah, she's a pure integrator.
So she's the one monitoring call volume, and
correct. Yep. And the cold market. So basically operations and cold marketing. Okay. She's running all that.
She's the one that's tracking all the KPIs and reporting them to you, right?
Correct. Yeah. So she's a true integrator, and then you have Ruben, who is our disposition. So those are payroll people. Okay. So Ruben, payroll people, and then we have 2 senior acquisition guys. So you have Miguel and then Rodolfo. Okay. And then we just added one more junior acquisitions. He's just starting out, so he's on the phones right now. Just he doesn't handle any of our hot leads, so he's running through all cold calling, the Mojo cold calling. Right. And then we have one full-time texter in house. So those four positions are commission.
Oh, really? So full-time texter in house?
Yeah.
Okay.
In-house, yeah.
All right. So you guys obviously tested it on VAs, right?
Yeah.
Texting. How did that work? Obviously that didn't work out.
Not so much.
But what were the things that you learned from it?
So here's the problem with VAs, and I always tell people, like, I invest time in my cold callers, so I'll train them twice. I'll have role-playing calls twice a week. Okay. I do that personally because I love sales. I love sales, and I love teaching sales. So I invest, like, that's the thing that I love to do. So I have 2 role-playing calls with them. One of the things with VAs, what we found out is that they're really hard workers, but a lot of times they have a difficult time following instructions. So they go off on their own, right? Like they think that this is what needs to be done, so they run with it instead of, and especially like I want to say the Filipino people, they're very proud, you know, and they're very prideful in their job. So a lot of times they won't ask for help, and you have to, like, get them out of there. So because we don't have Filipino call callers, but like our what is it called? Leads manager that runs all our podios, Filipino, and then we have 2 data people there in the Philippines. So when she first started, it was rough. Like, you know, she didn't know how to have conversations, but she worked hard. So we find out that the communication as far as the conversation in the text, like, even though we had templates, like quick replies, but a lot of times they didn't make sense. So they weren't really capturing how to navigate the conversation. Right. So we figured we still use her a little bit when we don't have, like, a lot of leads coming in, because she still runs our podio. She distributes the leads to all our acquisition guys. She reports weekly on them. She'll report and tell me, like, hey, this guy hasn't called this lead. It's going to be 7 days, and it's going to go back to available. So she runs that report weekly for me to tell me, like, you know, hey, so she's really good at that. It's just, you know, sales, right? Going back to having conversations. So, and actually our in-house texter we just hired this week. Oh, okay. So, and the reason why we did that, because he sits next to Kristen, and Kristen handles the cold marketing, so she's able to keep an eye on him. At least,
and kind of give him some feedback in regards to how his replies should be.
Correct. Yep.
Especially, especially through the training that you guys have for your sales process.
Yeah. So you could say we have and we have six cold caller VAs right now. Yeah. Right. Yeah. 6 cold caller VAs. We have 2 data entry people, Filipinos, and then Ira, who is our leads manager. So we don't actually have a leads manager here. She's in the Philippines.
She's in the Philippines.
Yeah. So that's 9 people there. But those aren't really, well, I guess they're positions. If you
they are. They are. Either way, they're generating your business.
Yeah, we're generating business, and then in house we have, you know, obviously 6 people. 6 people, but 2 are only salary positions.
Right. Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. So my question to you is that okay? So now it seems like the wholesale deal, right? You kind of have a handle on it, right?
Right.
So then, where are you at in regards to your investing? I mean, are you purchasing properties? Are you looking for rentals, or where is the next phase of the growth for you as
Yeah,
an
yeah.
individual?
For me personally, is that obviously I want to get into multifamily. That's the thing.
Okay.
Right now, I think I'm going to start off with single family. I do want to build a portfolio, but we have a little bit. Well, Steve and I have been talking about this. I don't know 100% what route to take, whether we go personal or business.
Mm-hmm.
So we're kind of going back and forth, and we figured because we're both working the business. So what we want to do is we're both 50-50 partners, right? In the investing company. So what we want to do is figure out if we find a really great deal. If he wants to keep it, he pays me, 10 grand, 15 grand, whatever we feel that's justified for that price. Or do we build a portfolio together when we get to 10 properties? Do we go look at it again?
Right.
Do we say, hey,
right.
10 properties together is enough? Let's spread out.
Right. And yeah, I think that's a conversation that you have to have beforehand, right? But just as an example, what we're doing here, first it started off me and Albert. We were buying multi-unit properties,
Yeah.
and then we would fix them up, and then sell them. Right. We were planning on keeping them for long-term rentals.
Yeah.
But our market is so hot that
right.
we were like, wait a second, how did we just make $100 grand?
Yeah.
Like that. wait, what? So, but once again, collaboration, right?
Yeah.
So we introduced, Mark came over to us,
nice.
and we're now opening up in Wisconsin,
nice.
right? So it was like all of a sudden it's becoming, yeah, well, what is the number? We don't know, but the reality of it is we just keep going.
You just keep going.
Right? We're going to keep going until we figure it out, and then eventually, so what if we're getting half of something? The integrators, the integrators and the visionaries, we seem to keep the momentum going.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know if that's the right way, but it's the way that it's worked out for us so far.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I mean, and the best thing is to always tackle everything up front, like, before you start doing something, because, that way you have clarity, and I don't know if you guys run traction, but we run 100% our business on traction. And so what that does is we have a weekly level 10 meeting every single week. We don't miss that. And then our quarterly meeting. So in our weekly meeting, we basically tackle all our to-do lists. So everybody in the business has clarity on what they need to do. Like, there's no doubt, like Monday comes and it's like, hey, George, were you supposed to do this? Hey, Mark, were you, did you do this? Like, it's on the...
I remember that meeting. I just had a flashback right now.
I know, it's like, don't bring me back. But it creates clarity, right? So that way nobody's guessing what you're supposed to do. That's just the to-dos. And then there's what we call IDS, so we identify, discuss, and solve. So we talk about, like, what issues are going on, and I'm sorry, back up. There's a start doing, stop doing section. So basically you talk about, like, what do we need to start doing, what do we need to stop doing. You create a list, so you don't discuss about them. You create a list. Okay, I think we need to start doing this. I think we need to stop doing this. And then you create a list, and then you move on to the next session, which is IDS, which is identify, discuss, and solve. And then what you do, let's say you build a list of 10, and then you number. Okay, what's the highest important? Okay, 1, 2, 3, and then you discuss those 3. So that way, and that's kind of we've been using Traction since we started, but we've gotten better now. Now we have an accountability chart. So everybody's clear on what they need to do. Nobody has an excuse. I don't have an excuse of why I haven't done it.
Well, it seems like you put everybody on the same page. And I think from what I've been reading, learning, and just gathering together in the wholesale world, it's like if everybody's not on the same page, the wheels don't work together.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's kind of like you roaring back and him rolling forward, right? You can't do that. Like, you're just going to go in circles. And so, if you guys are not doing that, recommend that. It's been a game changer. I'll send you guys the info of the program we're using for Traction and stuff. So I think it's like $150 a week or something. Yeah.
But there's a book, right? The book is Traction. The book is Traction, right?
So the book is called Traction, but then there's different platforms that run the Traction. Traction. So we don't, like, everything's in there. All our KPIs for our guys, our pipeline report, our expenses, everything's inside that platform.
Awesome.
Which really helps. So, but it's definitely gives you clarity on what you need to do for sure. So.
Did you have any, when you first started that platform, did you have any, like, issues or struggles of trying to get everybody so they're all on the same page with this, or?
Yeah, I mean, when we first started, I think you might have came in after the chaos. I think
after the chaos. Okay.
Well, it was still chaos, but yeah,
it was still structured. I mean, nonetheless, it was still structured.
Yeah,
we had our meetings. We had our meetings on a weekly basis, and
Correct.
you had to hit your numbers and so on and so forth.
Well, when we first started, when me and Steve partnered up, we're like, we didn't know, right, like which way we're gonna go with this. All we knew is let's do deals. That's basically it. Let's do deals. Yeah. Let's open up Mojo. Let's get people to call. And so anybody and everybody who wanted to make calls, we brought them on.
Hence why I got there.
There was yeah. So I don't know if you were there when we had up to 10 people. So we had up to 10 people. Just some were part time, some were coming in, some were not coming in. Like
there was a couple of realtors as well.
Yeah, realtors, right? LOs. We were getting everybody and their mom, whoever wanted to call, whoever wanted to call. So we still had our meetings, but to answer your question, it was chaos, man. Like it wasn't perfect. And then as we grew, and then as we understood like the vision of the company, because inside Traction you have your VTO, which is your vision traction sheet. So in there you write down like where you want to be at the end of the year as far as your salary, your revenue, your goals, your culture as a company. So those things evolve, and then we finally ended up getting better. Like, okay, we're not gonna hire no more part-time people. That was like the number one thing. Like, it's very hard to hire a part-time person because they're not gonna be here for all the activities for the team to learn. So that's one of the things that we cut out. Like, no more part-time people. And then as we went, okay, we need people that can call. I think that's when you started, when you came in after that. Like, okay, X amount of dials, X amount of hours on the dialer.
Right.
So, and then it evolved. Like right now, we have it set so well to where all our everybody understands the KPIs that they have to hit. There's no excuses. Like we don't have conversations like why didn't you hit? Well, we do. Sorry, we have conversations like why aren't you hitting your numbers? But the expectation is there already. So there's got to be a damn good excuse of why not hitting your numbers.
Okay.
If there is a good excuse for not hitting your numbers, I don't know if that's the right term, but. Yeah, but it was chaos, man. Like, we didn't get there, but we evolved to where we're at now, definitely, for sure.
Right, and also, I mean, it helps that Steve's also interviewing all kinds of different entrepreneurs, and they give them feedback on what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, so that's great. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's fine.
But what I'm going to tell you, what you guys are doing here right now is the best thing ever because that's what's helped our business, right? So the people that are coming to the podcast, like we've been... we got invited to go speak to other places. We got into masterminds that we probably would never got into because of the podcast. And going back to the point you just made right now, in those masterminds, you learn all these little tweaks and things and every little tweak that's positive, man, it'll slingshot your business. Yeah. And like I tell everybody, you cannot implement everything, but the things that you do implement, if you do them, it's going to slingshot your business forward.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The one, and I know this is going to sound silly, and it's like so far in the future for us or whatever. The one thing that when Matt Larson came down here and he went, I guess his story is that he was spending $2 million at Lowe's for materials for his his fix and flips or whatever, and then ends up saying that he could have spent almost $400K as a discount to buy it all, and he goes and he buys himself a warehouse and does creates his own little Lowe's or whatever. And
when he said that story, it was like
it's crazy,
exactly.
Man. I love that story, but you know which was my favorite? The Jason Bourne story.
Okay, no, you got to tell me that one.
So he said he's watching one day because they own a property management company that manages rentals. He's got a great setup, man. Like they buy the properties, they fix them up, and then they sell them to the investors, and then they manage them pretty much. Yeah. So he said he was watching Jason Bourne one day, and I don't know if you guys probably familiar with the movies. So what does Jason Bourne do when he steps into a property? He looks at his watch, and what does he say? Do you remember what he says on that?
No. But go ahead.
So he says, okay, he goes, in about 30 seconds, 20 seconds, you're gonna have two guys come in. One guy's going to come through the window, the other guy's going to come through the door, and then we're going to get into a fight. And so he predicts it, right? So I'm like, okay, where's he going with this? Like, with this? He goes, so what I did, he goes, I couldn't sleep that night. He goes, I'm like, I was watching this movie and I see him do this. And like, how do I do that with my property management business? And he's like, yeah, it's crazy. So then he says, he went back to the drawing board. He goes, so he goes, how do I make it to where a tenant calls and says they have something wrong with the property, and then I can get a van there within 10 minutes. So they created this whole, like he said, he's got a big television in one of the offices, and all it is showing where the vans are. So
Oh.
yeah, crazy. So like, let's say a homeowner calls here and they're like, okay, let me check how fast we can be there, and then they check to see what supplies are on that van. Okay, I can have somebody there in about 10 minutes.
Oh,
Dang.
that is awesome, man. That is
Yeah,
awesome.
and it's
that came from Jason Bourne.
yeah, yeah, that's what he
Inspired.
said. Yeah,
Wow.
he's crazy. He blew my mind. But yeah, but again, that's the, you know, again, it wouldn't happen because of the podcast and everything else. That that's how we get to know those individuals. High level like that. So.
Yeah.
And then being in the mastermind, the high level mastermind that we have on Thursdays before our workshop.
And so then it's always every Thursday at the beginning of the month, right?
So the meetup,
the real estate disruptors.
It's the first Thursday of the month. So the next one is March 5th.
March 5th. Okay.
Yeah, March 5th. But we have we have our workshop obviously, but before the workshop we have a mastermind where everybody like top level guys come into there and speak and stuff. So. Which was great. That's where Matt was on that one last time. So
okay. Oh, yeah. the mastermind, and that's usually happens before the
workshop.
The workshop, right?
Okay,
yeah, the day before.
But the meetup, I mean, whoever wants to come, they're more welcome. They can go to meetup.com and find the Real Estate Disruptors meetup. So we always get, a ton of people. You've been to the meetups. Have you been, Mark?
I've been to the one. Yeah,
okay.
the one that we just
Matt Larson.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that one was crazy. They had people flew in from Iowa and other markets. This last one, we had a couple guys from Tucson and I think some people from California. They came in. It's just
starting to get starting to get bigger and bigger.
It is starting to get bigger and bigger, and it's just being a go giver, being a collaborator, and not having that scarcity mentality, and just and working hard. I mean, you obviously have to be legit.
Yeah, right. Yes.
You can't just have a podcast, and you gotta have a business too at some point. Yep. For the most part. No matter if you're struggling in your business, you have a business. So yeah.
Right. Exactly. All right. So then, so your system is basically you have a bunch of cold callers, and then also, and then they input their information into a system in Podio,
correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So is there a template in Podio that you guys are currently using, or for any automation or anything?
Yeah.
Like that?
So we use we're using CEO Pulse Podio.
Oh, okay.
So,
really?
Rafael Cortez's. Okay. And it's been a game changer for us. Yeah,
okay.
Man. It's been we're. So funny thing about Podio is that it could be a rabbit hole. Last year, I want to say in the middle, towards the beginning of last year, I got with Jesse Burrell and Evo and Annie. We were working on building our own Podio, and man, we got into it for like I think we were into it for like $6,000 or $7,000 each,
Wow.
Not just us individually. And the developer that was helping us, he was overseas, and so the guy just wasn't doing a really good job. We just kept putting money into this. I'm like, man, I can't keep doing this. Like, and so when Evo came in, Evo's really sharp, so he creates systems as well. He's like, hey, I need all the codes and everything because you're not longer doing what we're asking, and we paid you a lot of money already. And so he held the codes hostage. Like, he didn't want to release any other stuff. So So basically, we donated like $7,000 to somebody overseas for the most part.
Right.
And then I found out that Rafael had a Podio, obviously the CEO's Pulse system. And so when I looked at it, I'm like, man, this thing's amazing.
It's
like,
amazing.
Who knows about this? Like, he goes, oh, nobody. Yeah, I'm like,
and
man.
He's not even promoting it.
No, he's not. He's not. Well, you have to remember, it's a lot of work, man, to run a Podio system with that caliber of Podio system. So I said, dude, I want that system. I said, how do I get my hands on it? So he told, okay, this is what it's going to cost you. I'm like, dude, I just donated $7,000 for another Podio system. I'm like, man, I said, you know what? Fine. I said, it's going to help the business, so let's do it. He set it up, and it's just been incredible. Yeah. So our VA works out of there. I mean, he's got training videos. He does all the automation for us. We lead gen in there, so that's really good. So basically, our acquisition guys, that's all they're in Podio. That's it, 100% of the time.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. No, I saw a piece of it, and I'm like, okay, so how? Because obviously we're growing, right? And I'm going, okay, well, we could spend more money on marketing, or we can spend more money on systems, right? And so I'm looking at it, or spend money on mentoring, right? And I'll get into that in just a second.
Yeah, no problem.
So. I saw Rafael's system, and I'm like, man, that could be an absolute game changer. I just don't know if that's the right decision to make.
Yeah,
we'll figure it out, right? But
right.
But yeah, if it's something that helped you out, we'll definitely check into it.
I mean, honestly, it's something that you want to look into to see how it would help your business. Because depending on where you're at, I always tell people, like, first you got to get some money, right? Let the money flow, and let the before you start getting fancy with systems, because you don't need fancy systems, obviously, until you get to a certain point. But I think with this system, it helps any business, honestly. And I'm not saying this because I know him, and obviously, we bought and we have an affiliate with him, but just because our acquisition guys, like, they don't do, our two senior acquisitions anyways, they don't do any prospecting. They're 100% inside Podio. We're all in Podio. Nobody's in Mojo anymore, except for our new guy, because he's got to, he's got to.
He's got to earn his stripes.
Yeah, he's got to earn his stripes,
right.
exactly.
Yeah.
He's got to get kicked in the mouth a couple of times.
Right.
So he's good though. He's handling it. It's gonna be his first full week. So this week. So
right.
yeah. So he's handling it. But again, it's just everything ties in. So everything that's happening on the outside ties into that for the most part.
And
so.
my sorry, and the thing that I'm weighing in is okay. Yeah, systems don't need to be fancy.
Yeah.
But if you start with systems now, I'm gonna have an easier time.
Yeah.
Growing.
I would agree with that, especially with this Podio, the way he has it set up and stuff, because there's a lot of Podio, there's systems out there that are only true CRMs, right, which holds the leads that come in from, from other systems that you're working in, so that way you're managing your leads. But with his, what's cool about it is that, I'll give you an example. So we were using Slingshot, which is kind of like a Roar, texting platform.
Okay.
So everything that came from Roar, everything that came from texting RVMs, we never played in Roar. Like, RVA set the campaigns, and then we set them and forget them. How people say that, right? So our co-callers, they're only one of them is in Podio, which is like the manager, if you would say, right?
Okay.
She's the only one in Podio because she's the one that's checking to make sure that the co-callers are actually inputting the information correctly. So they use a wet form. But our guys, like our acquisition guys, they never seen Slingshot. We're never in Slingshot. Like, they don't talk to the cold callers or anything like that. Like, everything's coming into Podio, and then our VA leads manager is distributing the leads, evenly. Evenly, yeah. And they don't even see the negative responses. So, like, our guys don't even get to look at the negative response from text messages.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no. Like, our guys they're straight up true closers. That's it. Yeah,
okay.
Like, they're just, everything they see, it's either an interested, warm, or hot lead. Like, they're not even, like I told you, they're not in any other system. 100% in Podio.
So inside of your Podio, they're able to dial out from it?
Yeah.
They're able to text as well?
Correct.
And then there's also email campaigns or something else, right?
Yeah. So we have, so they're able to dial out. We use smartphone for that. So it's click to call. So basically inside Podio, they just click, and then the smart dialer opens up and you're talking to your prospect. They're also able to text as well too inside Podio, so they can shoot out text messages. And then you're right, you can set the campaigns if you want to do like follow up.
Emails.
Yeah, emails or whatever.
Yeah, because we've been testing with our VAs to capture the email addresses.
Yeah.
He's getting 1 out of 5. But either way, at the end of a month, you're going, well, wait a second, that's still 20 emails that you can at least start.
Yeah, and what's cool about it is that it's all linear. So, like, there's only 3 apps that we work out of, which is Lead Gen, and then REI Deals, and then we have one, and then there's two main apps, which is called Lead Gen, REI Deals, and then we have 2 other apps, which is end of the day report, and then what is it called? REI Quick Look.
Okay.
So REI Quick Look, which is awesome because, like, let's say someone gives us an address, we can pop that address in there, and we'll know, like, if this is a deal or not right away. Like, our guys don't even have to think about, go out and do comps and stuff. So it's grabbing from Zillow, but from the solds. So if it's a deal where it's like, okay, let's make sure that we're looking at this right, we'll pull up Monsoon or MLS.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. But at least they get a snapshot, right? Like, if you have somebody that says, hey, I want $300,000 for this property, and you look at it and it says 175, like, okay, yeah, forget it.
Yeah, it's not gonna work,
this is not gonna work. So it's quick response. They don't have to think about it. And when I mean linear, like streamlined. So everything comes in the sandbox, which is called Lead Gen. So everything comes in that sandbox, and then, like I said, we have, like, last week we had over 205 leads come in. They're not prospects, right? We have over 205 leads come in. One of them ended up with 70, and the other one ended up with 80. And those are actual prospects, those 70 and 80. And so
those are the ones that are hot leads, or
interested, warm, or hot.
Right.
All the other ones, guess who got rid of them? Our VA. So she got rid of all the negative responses. Any recordings, she'll listen to them and, like, okay, yeah, this person just wants to be taken off.
So you have her as your quality control as
well.
So awesome for the leads.
Once they talk to that individual or acquisition guys, then they have they fill out as much information they can, and then they click a button that says create REI deal and sends them to the REI deal app. In there, everything happens in there. Acquisitions, deal analysis, generate purchase contract, and then Ruben, who's our disposition, then takes over after that, after they lock it up. So we have all the files, we have everything inside that app, and then Ruben takes Ruben takes care from there, and we have all our buyers, we have our buyers list, and then all our realtors list inside Podio contacts. So anybody that we talk to that we know is interested, we'll put them on there. We'll put them, and then it'll generate the assignment agreement. So we're generating everything inside that app.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So do you have an affiliate code with Raphael?
I do. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and
give it to you guys.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't have the information. We'll have to put it. Can we put a link below?
Yeah, we can put a link.
Okay,
so
cool.
look at the link for Raphael's CEO.
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll put the link for the CEO's Pulse system, and then we can put the link for the other stuff as well too.
Right. So, exactly. And so so then mentorship, right? So here's where I'm sorry. Did you have any?
Nope. No, go ahead.
So mentorship, right? So I've been texting back and forth with Steve. So right.
Must be asking that for a reason.
Right. I must be asking that for a reason. Exactly. And so then, with him, obviously, you guys have already been going down that road of mentorship, right? Because it was something that he had an idea. It was even when I was there that he was like, I'm going to help 100 millionaires. 100 people become millionaires. So far, he's had 3 or 4.
Yeah, I think he's up to. We're about to do our fourth one. No, he already has 4.
Right. So he has 4, right? Exactly. I want to be one of those millionaires.
So
let's do it,
right?
Exactly.
Let's do it.
So then, so go ahead and explain to me a little bit about the mentorship program, or obviously, I don't know if that's your side of the business or not.
We're business partners in that too.
Okay.
He handles most of the day-to-day stuff, so that's kind of like our. Mentorship is just another freaking business in its own, man. It's like, holy smokes. Like, I'm more like the pretty face. I just show up to the calls, the Zoom calls, right? And then he does all the work behind the scenes. So he does a really good job at it. Obviously, he's, like I said, he's been in the industry for a long time. So the guy's invested over $250,000 in just learning, in self-development. And that's not exaggerating, man.
No, exactly.
He's paid to be in some of the most craziest things that I probably would have never, thought about even paying. So, he's just a walking knowledge, full of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not just sales, like it's business mentorship as well too, And so, yeah, you're right. That was his desire to do make 100 millionaires, and so he's already started that journey. But as far as, the mentorship program is, me and him have been in the sales training, which I think you know about, right? We've been in there for about 1.5 years now, so a little bit over 1.5 years, and it's changed our business tremendously. And that's kind of what we tailor our mentorship on is sales, and then business, and then also we talk about wholesaling, but mostly it's about sales and business structure in general, because a lot of times, a lot of people struggle from going day-to-day hustler to an actual business owner.
Yeah.
And so we found a niche. Like, you have everybody and their mom talking about how I'm going to show you how to wholesale. I'm going to show you how to get a deal, discount. Like, there's a lot of information on YouTube. There's a lot of, free information right now that tells you that. But what there isn't is the information after you get your first deal, second deal, third deal, fourth, fifth deal, and how to negotiate deals for a deep discount. So what we said is, like, look, I think there's a big gap in the industry, and I think we need to grab the sales training that we learn. Let's give the people back, right? Obviously, and then not only that, take your business savviness and let's add it to that, because the guys that are on the call, they're not just talking about like wholesale. They know how to find a wholesale deal for the most part. Is that they don't know, when a seller goes dark, like what to do, or when I have 2 parties involved, what do I do? When I have this, that, what do I do? Like, how do I talk to these people? So, and then the other thing too is that, okay, I'm growing my business. I'm doing 3 deals, 2 deals a month now. Like, where do I spend money where you're at, right? Like, where do I go? Do I buy systems? Do I do this? Do I do that? So that's kind of the heart of our coaching program, right? Is the sales. Sales comes first overall, and then the business side of it, is attached to that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, because we don't sit there and talk about, because like I said, you can find out about what wholesaling is and how to wholesale overall. But, we didn't want to go that route.
Well, it's also the details. Like,
correct.
It's the details on, like, okay, so, and it's funny, right? So if you go online and you go to YouTube University, right, they'll be like, oh, yeah, you talk to a motivated seller, you get it under contract, and there you go, right? You just made yourself a ton of money, right? The reality of it is that you go and you talk to a seller, and then all of a sudden you have a contract, and you're going, oh my God, what do I do with this?
Exactly.
Right now what happens? Right, because that's kind of some of the stuff that's left out.
Yeah, so I'll give you an example. I'm glad that you brought that up. We had one of our students last week. Was it Monday? Oh, Monday. We had one of our students. He's like, hey man, he goes, because hey, what do you need help with? He's like, I have a seller right now that is wanting to use their attorney. So back east, a lot of them use attorneys, right? Closing attorneys. She's like, I keep telling her that, he's trying to convince her not to, right? Like with all these benefits and features and stuff. And I'm thinking like, and I'm like, well, why is he doing that? Like, because he doesn't know, right? Like what you were just saying, the little detail. And I told him, hey, Luke, I said, why don't you, I said, incognito or your partner, call that attorney and then just ask him like, hey, you know what? We're looking to do business with an attorney. We're looking at, we're investors. We wanted to know if you're an investor-friendly attorney, if you know how to do assignments, double closes. I just want to know how you work with investors and how well you understand our business. So that way you could stop doubting and stop thinking like, because you don't know that guy might understand an assignment.
Yeah.
You're over here tripping out about it.
Right, exactly.
But it's those little tweaks that you don't think about, right? Like, and he's like, damn, I didn't think about that. Like, you know what, I'm going to do that. So he did do that, and he called them and, instead of beating himself up, like, no, we got to use my title company. And I'm like, no, just call the attorney, ask him, don't tell him anything about that you have a deal with somebody. Just call him and ask him for information that you're an investor looking to build a relationship with somebody that wants to, do business with.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I know. And it's funny because we are in the guru capital of the world.
Oh, definitely.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah,
for the wholesale capital of the world. Yeah. And yeah, so some of the stuff that they're putting out there is only Arizona based.
Yeah.
And we're very lenient in regards to some of the laws that we have for the wholesaling.
Correct.
And all of that.
Yeah, our California students, I mean, I feel bad for them. A lot of times they're like, damn, like wild, wild west. I said, literally, out here in Arizona, we're wild, wild west.
We're blessed by that. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, we have to ride the wave. So, because there's a couple of states too, but I think Arizona's, so far from what I've seen, is pretty liberal as far as what you can do in a transaction and stuff.
Right.
So.
Exactly. Not only just based off of the land, because like I hear Houston and Texas is very liberal in regards to the way that it does it, but there's all kinds of zoning laws.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, even with agents though, that in Houston, like some of our wholesalers that are licensed, like they have to say they're licensed in the beginning of the call.
Oh wow.
They can get in trouble. Like they have to.
Wow.
Yeah. So even though it's a liberal as far as like the business and what you can do, but there's still restraints, and that's a challenge, right? Like, hey, Mr. Homeowner, I'm a real estate agent, but I'm not here to list your house. I'm also an investor. Like, you have to tweak your conversation because you have to let them know right on the spot away that you're licensed, because they found that. Because let's say that you're talking to another agent and then you go through the conversation and you don't tell them, and then during the middle or the end of the conversation, you're in trouble.
Yep.
Wow. Exactly. You're in trouble. So yeah, that's it. It's everything we've learned a lot from the coaching students and stuff, what they deal with and what not to deal with. So
yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so so now you're cranking away. What's your average month for wholesale?
So we average about, on a consistent basis, we do about consistently 7 to 10 deals. 7 to 10 deals. Yeah, okay. On the wholesale side. But this year we're actually last year I think we did 9 hotel deals.
Okay.
So whatever that is, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this year though we're ramping that up. So because we're gonna cherry pick our own product. So our goal is to do 2 a month. So we're looking to do 24 hotel deals plus average, the 7 deals of wholesaling per month. So. Right.
Yeah. And so just explain, what a hotel deal is.
So a hotel deal is you actually take it down. You use your own, you use private money, hard money, whatever it is you want to use, or your own money, and then you buy it and then you list it on the MLS. That's officially a hotel deal because it's between wholesale and retail.
Right.
Because you can put it on the MLS.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times, like we'll trash it out and they say that's not a hotel because you've already made put expenses towards it, but I mean, trashing it out is like $1,500, so that's still not bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Depends on how much is trash.
Depends on how much, trash is in there. But yeah, a hotel deal it's a great. So like right now we're working on a hotel deal. I'll give you an example. The place is clean. It's very nice. It's a little outdated, but it's just outdated. That's it. It's not trash. It's not like your typical trashy wholesale deal. I mean, the outside looks nice. This is in Glendale. There's one right now that is pending for $250. It's very ugly. Like it's got blue cabinets and yellow countertops. I'm like, what the heck? That's for $250. But that's our market, though. You know. And then the 2 across the street from that one is they both sold for $270, but they're pretty decked out. So right now, I think we're around 190. The seller's wanting 190. Like we can buy that deal. Like we don't care. We'll buy it at 190. We might be able to wholesale it, make like 5K on it maybe, or 10K possibly, just depending on the buyer, right?
Right.
But if we wanted to maximize it, like we'll buy it for 190, and our private money's so cheap, we can wholesale it just the way it is for 250 or 255 or 260.
Exactly.
So and that's without touching it at all.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's a really good deal for us.
Yeah, we had one in Gilbert. It wasn't a wholesale deal, but because we did change the cabinets and the flooring, right?
Yeah,
but we painted cabinets and flooring. That's already a flip, right?
Yeah,
but
right.
but the point of it is that we got it slim. It was but it was in a hot market, so we bought it at 240. We put in 10K of it, so we were total in at 250. Market price was about 315. We ended up selling it at 305.
Okay, damn, that's pretty good.
So not bad.
Yeah,
After minus fees or whatever, it was like 40 grand, 45,000.
Nice. Yeah, so that's the goal. Like we still our business. So here's the problem that I'm seeing right now in the industry, right? And I don't know if it's happening to you guys, but if it is, stop it. So there's a lot of we lost a lot of the focus, right? Like focusing on that one thing that you're good at, and because basically, if you focus on the one thing that you're good at, you're gonna be successful at that. What I'm seeing right now is a lot of people, they're chasing what I call the hot chick, right? So basically, what happens is that there's, you have Pace, you have a lot of people talking about sub twos, creative financing, and those are really good. What I want to say, not tactics. What's the word I want to use?
I don't know,
avenues, yeah, to do real estate, but that's another business. Like that's another business side of that, and they're like, and he's still wholesaling, like but that's the big drum that's being hit on right now. And so multifamily is another one. You have everybody and their mom now coming through multifamily, talking about getting into multifamily. And what's happening is a lot of people they're dabbling a little bit into wholesaling. They're dabbling a little bit into fix and flip. They're dabbling and they're not focusing on that one main thing. So because I've seen people change their whole business model from they were making 20,000, 30,000 rips on fix and flips to go chase that hot chick, which is the sub 2 hot chick. And I'm not saying like so basically to bring that to the point I want to make is our business is purely wholesale business. Like that's our focus, and we're happy that everybody's chasing the hot chick because she's expensive.
Right.
She's really expensive because like we don't want to mess with that. So our business is pure wholesaling. But the thing is that when we go into a deal, you best believe that we're going to use every tool possible in our tool belt. That
there's not an option to say no.
There's not an option to say no. Correct. But we don't base our business solely around that one thing. Strictly wholesaling. If the deal doesn't make sense at the end of the point after everything, then we walk away. We don't focus too much. And the other thing too is we've been doing wholesaling for a while. It doesn't hurt us to add the hotel or the fix and flip side, like take 2 properties a month down.
Yeah.
It's because we didn't start trying to do 4 things at once. We started pure wholesaling, which we are still a pure wholesaling company, and then we're adding now this avenue to it because we can. We have a great private lender, which that provides funding for us.
Right, and that's very important. Having a relationship with private lenders. If you get cheap money, all kinds of openings happen with you.
Yeah, make sure you treat them right too, because a lot of times those properties sell quick, and we have a guaranteed a certain amount that we pay. We sell it under 30 days too as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So that way they stay happy, because a lot of times transactions happen pretty quick. I mean, you buy it now, you sell it in 2 weeks, so then you don't give them anything, or let's say that if you're just basing it off of that interest rate charge per month or whatever that is. Sometimes they're like, I'm not making I'm gonna go take my money over here.
Right, exactly.
No.
Got it.
Yep.
All right, so one last question, right? We good on time, right? One last question. So what are the challenges that you have right now? What are some of the challenges that you're experiencing right now? You're closing 6-7 deals.
Yeah.
Right.
So, man, the biggest challenge has always been for me, I'll tell you what my challenge is personally. Like, I've always been, my work ethic has always pushed me to be someone that hustles, somebody that will take initiative, something not being done. Like, I'll give an example. I didn't have anybody go to an appointment. I'm going to the appointment because I love to be out there. So my biggest challenge for me is growth, like trying to get out of that space to where I'm becoming a business, where I am a business owner, right?
Yeah.
And trying to fit the puzzles, with the right people and stuff. Even though we've got, so far, I believe we have the right people, but it's always challenging to maintain, that culture. You got to build a really good culture. And it's scaling, man. That's always the challenge.
Scaling,
like, it's
right.
scaling, like, how far you want to take it. How much do you want to be out of your business? You know what I mean? That's the challenging part that I'm having right now. And I was talking to my sales coach about this, and he goes, "I bet you're sucking at it, huh?" He's like, "You're supposed to help me, man. Come on." And I'm like, I'm not sucking at it, but it's very different for me, right? Because I've always been that hustler guy. I've always been that person that I don't like to sit back, but it allows me to grow as an individual because I'm now moving into the role of an actual business owner, and now knowing like where to fit the right people and do things like that. And
right. Sometimes it's hard to just let go.
It is really hard. I mean, for a long time, I didn't want to let go of data. Now Kristen, who we hired, she handles all the data. Like that was my biggest thing. Like I do not want nobody touching this data at all because data is the bloodline of your business, right? You mess one thing up. I mean, you guys pulled spreadsheets before. You mess one column or whatever. So.
The whole thing, it's just a cascade effect.
Yeah, the whole thing is gone. Yeah. Like your marketing.
Right. Not only that, tons of thousands of dollars now just went down the drain.
So, but obviously she's not a regular admin. She's a very high paying individual, right? She's like an executive admin. So so she didn't come cheap. but she's excellent at what she does. Like she pulls out the whip when she needs to with her VAs, even our guys in house. So that's awesome. But that's the challenge, man. It's always scaling, and are you like not wanting to work in the business but work on the business, and sometimes like you gotta go back in there and get your hands dirty, which I don't have a problem doing, but Steve is like, we can't do that no more.
You can't do it, right? Exactly. After a certain point there, you can't go back, and you have to
you have to trust your people. And the way I looked at it, like from what I've learned, it's like I know that people are not going to do 100% of how I do it, right? But if I can get 60, if I can get 70% out of them,
good old Gary V.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing that's great. It helps me, so that we don't have to do that.
Awesome. All right, so then now, okay, so how can they get a hold of you? What Instagram?
Sure. If you are on Instagram, you can follow me at Max Jimenez REI. Max Jimenez REI. So that's the best way. Follow me on Instagram. Send me a message. I'm pretty good on getting back to people. I love helping people out. I have a ton of videos on my Instagram profile, so they can go on there, and I'm very responsive on my messages there.
Right,
so
exactly. Okay,
yep.
Great. And then also for mentoring information, do we have the code on that or no?
Let me see. I don't.
If not, we will just.
So actually, if you go to my Instagram and you click on the link in my bio, there's the link is there for a coaching program. It's the Real Estate Disruptors application. Okay. So just go on there, and then maybe we can set the link here on the bottom of the show. So
absolutely,
I'll send it over to you. But yeah, man, this is awesome.
No, awesome.
Appreciate
thank
that you came out. Wealth of knowledge.
Right.
So thank you for
that.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you guys. Thank you,
brother.
man. Yep.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, mahalo.